Hello, everyone. This is Howard Fox, and welcome back for another episode of the Outdoor Adventure Series, the podcast that celebrates individuals and families, businesses, and organizations that seek out and promote the exploration, stewardship, conservation, access, and enjoyment of the outdoors. Dr. Matthew Harmody is our guest today. Matt is a retired ER physician, a donor, a mountaineer, endurance athlete, and the author of Ascending America. Matt, it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you, Howard. Looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Now, first I have to ask, where are you located?
I'm in the Pinehurst area of North Carolina.
Okay, so you are enjoying a little bit of a cold winter up there. I understand a little snow coming your way too.
Yeah, several inches tomorrow, which will paralyze the community. Our snow removal system consists of the sun, so we'll be closing schools for a few days and a bit paralyzed for that period of time.
Okay, well, I highly recommend a big pot of chili, some stew, and lots of hot coffee.
Yes, those are all excellent suggestions.
Excellent. So, Matt, I'd love to explore a little bit of about your background and how the world of being an endurance athlete and also being a donor, how those kind of came together, kind of a little confluence of two major rivers here. So if you would, for our listeners, share a little bit about your background.
Sure. I think the endurance aspect is probably a little less complicated, so I'll start there. I was a distance runner in high school and then kind of gravitated to running marathons and triathlons. And when I went back to school, and specifically medical school, that kind of put a bit of a hiatus on doing much other than just staying in shape. And then out of medical school residency, I fell in love with the sport of adventure racing. And that's a bit of a niche sport, but for your listeners, that involves, it's a map and compass sport, much like orienteering, but it's usually no cell phones and no GPS, and you're challenged with navigating through woods and mountains and waterways to find checkpoints that the race director has set up, and the races can last anywhere from 8 hours to multiple days, and you're usually moving either by paddling, mountain biking, trekking/running, and the winner is the person that finds the most checkpoints in the shortest period of time. So I in emergency medicine, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well.
Sure.
My attention span grew to minutes and seconds with how busy a department can be and all the interruptions. And it really became the only activity that I could get lost, pardon the pun, for hours and hours and not think about anything else. Most of the racing I did and do is solo. So you've got your thumb on the map at all times, and any lack of concentration may cause you to get off course or even regretfully get lost. So yeah, a lot of fun, mental and physical challenge. And so that's my, weekend warrior, nothing too dramatic. Back to the donation side though, that story is a little bit more involved, but It starts with my father. I was a college sophomore away at school. I had a very unfortunate, unexpected call from my mother telling me she had taken my father to the Cleveland Clinic. And that is no small feat to begin with. My father was pretty stubborn, and he must have been in pretty bad shape for my mom to convince him to go to the hospital. He was found to be in complete kidney failure, which meant his kidneys were no longer working, and they had to put him on what's called dialysis, essentially to save his life.
Right.
And that started a long 9-year downward spiral of my dad's health. Being on dialysis, it certainly keeps you alive, but it's a a relatively meager existence, especially for someone that was healthy, enjoyed the outdoors, hunting, fishing. That was a lot of it was taken away from him. And he reached a point at age 59. This had occurred at age 50 that he no longer wanted to live that type of life and decided to stop taking dialysis, which in a relatively short period of time certainly ends one's life, which happened
Right.
to him. It removes critical electrolytes and excess fluid. So without that, it's very difficult to, well, quite impossible to live
Sure.
without dialysis. I had hoped to be considered to be a living kidney donor to my father. I would have been on the short list for that, along with my two uncles at the time. But my dad was pretty adamant that he had lived a full life at age 50, didn't want to jeopardize someone else's life on his behalf. And I always saw that as a missed opportunity to make a difference in my father's life. But that actually led me, Howard, to go back to medical school at age 30
Hmm.
into emergency medicine, as you had mentioned earlier. And I was reminded of my father every day because I saw at least one dialysis patient probably every day I worked. And I reached a point in time where I thought that since I couldn't help my father, at least I could make a difference in someone else's life.
Okay.
And I became what is called a non-directed, some people call it altruistic kidney donor back in 2017. And I realized with a little bit more wisdom at that age that my father really wasn't being obstinate. He was actually giving me the selfless opportunity to save someone else's life and not his, quite honestly. So
Okay.
that's my story along those two fronts.
Okay. And what is it like, first off, to be a donor? So you use the word, you were an altruistic donor, but you had this very deep connection back to your father and his journey. But what is the what's the experience of being a donor, say for the kidney?
It starts, I would say that anyone that's a living kidney donor has a story, and it's usually a pretty unique
Hmm.
story. Of course, you mentioned my father had a huge influence on my decision to donate. It's quite an involved process to be evaluated to be a
Hmm.
living kidney donor. You're, of course, evaluated medically as well as psychologically. And that process can take several weeks to a few months, depending on your transplant center that you're working with and your schedule availability. Once you've completed all the testing and passed those tests, you go to the transplant center's review board. It's usually made up of several medical and even non-medical people, and they make a joint decision to approve someone to donate.
Hmm.
And while it's major surgery, it's extremely safe. I went through what's called a paired exchange program. So I donated into a system that's run by the National Kidney Registry,
Hmm.
and that puts my kidney in a pool of available kidneys for people that are on the transplant wait list, of which there's currently over 90,000 people in this country on that
Wow.
list. And it goes to the best match patient. And that ended up originally being a patient at Indiana University. So the National Kidney Registry not only has a very detailed algorithm for matching donors and potential recipients, but they also have an extensive transportation system. So on September 26th, 2017, in the morning, I had my surgery. My kidney was removed, packaged in preservatives and a cooling method, and literally driven to Raleigh Durham Airport and put on a commercial plane and there was another staff member waiting for that plane to arrive, and there to take the package, so to speak, and that went right to the hospital in the operating room. So those types of surgeries on both ends are done many, many times a day in this country.
Hmm.
And the ability to have those paired exchanges so that people don't have to be a match, say, for a loved one. So in my case, I would presume that I know it was a woman, but in that instance, it might be that her husband wanted to donate on her behalf, but they weren't a good match.
Okay.
So he agrees to donate um, with the recipient, his wife, receiving my kidney, and then he would go on to donate to another similar pair. Could be brother sister, could be friend friends, and that creates what are called chains.
Hmm.
And there could be several of those types of surgeries done one after another through the course of a day or even multiple days. So
Okay.
that ability really expands the country's ability to give the best matched kidney to someone on a wait list. And the two important factors there, Howard, are one, every recipient has to be on lifelong anti-rejection medications. And the better you can match the kidney, the less medications they can be on, so the less at risk they are for infection and other health complications. And secondly, we know the kidneys last longer in a recipient if they're a better match, which
Okay.
makes pretty logical sense.
Sure. And I would imagine the matching algorithm is probably outside the scope of this podcast episode, but
And
the
my
webs.
knowledge, and probably my knowledge base too, Howard. So
Okay.
that's a good thing.
Okay. What was the I mean, you are going through a lot here, and as an athlete, I mean, you like you said, you've always been out there exercising, running trails, and now the endurance sports. What was the recuperation like for you? And is that typical of others who perhaps not as physically active as you are?
Yes, I think if there's one important message about living kidney donation that I could share with you and your listeners is that an ordinary person can do an extraordinary contribution by saving a life. So I don't want anyone to listen to this and feel that you have to be a crazy endurance junkie in running marathons or what have you to donate a kidney. But what you should expect if you're interested in being a living kidney donor is to be able to return to your activities that you enjoyed
Mhm.
before donation. So specifically in my case, and I think the first part's pretty typical. They got me to a chair in my room that afternoon. I was walking the halls the following morning, discharged after a couple of days, and began the walk as much as I could. Of course, the medical team frowned on getting back to running and mountain biking for obvious reasons too quickly. But I could do all the walking I wanted, so that quickly became several miles a day. And then I gradually got into some light running, and then finally returning to the mountain bike, certainly within several weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. And I was doing ultra marathons at the time, Howard, and I donated into September and I did a 100K trail race mid-January. So that's a little, what, shy of 4 months. Granted, it wasn't my best effort because my training was limited,
Mhm.
but that was at the point where I knew 100% that I was completely healed and recovered. Now,
Okay.
people that are less active, will have a shorter time frame. I like to tell people that if you're mostly doing office computer work, not physically demanding work, you're usually back in 3 to 4 weeks. And I know some people that were doing work the night of their surgery, which was in the morning with their laptop in the hospital room. Now,
Those folks, I don't even want to talk about. That's crazy.
on the flip side, if you're someone like a UPS driver up and down out of a truck with heavy packages day in and day out, you're going to be probably looking more at 8 weeks before
Okay.
you return to that type of work.
Okay. And so all of this evidence is just kind of presenting itself now, your experience, the experience of others. And how is this journey being laid out for you and the folks that you're trying to encourage to consider the idea of being an active donor?
Yeah. So let me just give you a few numbers. So there's, as I mentioned earlier, over 90,000 patients on the wait list. And that number grows fairly steadily. It would grow a lot faster if two factors weren't involved. One is that about 4,500 people a year die while on the transplant list
Mm,
because the waits can be years for some people. And about a similar number, another 4,500 become too ill to be able to manage the pretty uh, significant surgery that's involved in
mhm,
being a recipient. So that is such a tremendous need is the main point. We only transplant about 25,000 patients a year, and about a third of those, or 6,500, are living kidney donors. And it's really down to only a few hundred of folks that do what's called non-directed or altruistic donation. Most people are donating to someone they know, family, a close friend. So our goal with the trip, Howard, was to raise awareness for living kidney donation. It's not to prove that you had to be able to climb mountains to be a living kidney donor, but we wanted to do something that was exciting for people to follow.
mhm,
David, actually, our captain, actually is a experienced mountaineer and has actually done all 7 summits. So those are the highest points in all 7 continents. And he came up with the idea of doing something closer to home. Most people can relate to their state high points.
mhm,
And when I talk to people in person, most people know where their state high point is, and many of them have been to it. And I thought that just also brought a lot more awareness and attention.
mhm.
And finally, the team that Dave put together, all 5 of us, were naturally pretty competitive people.
Right.
And when he found out that there was a Guinness World Record for climbing each of the highest points in all 50 states in the shortest amount of time, I think that was the icing on the cake to make it even more interesting. We had a social media page, provided updates and pictures frequently. People could track how we were doing. We even came out to the trailheads to cheer us on, fellow living kidney donors and many other people.
Mhm,
In some cases, they brought some necessary equipment that we didn't have the time or the necessity to get, or we ran
sure.
out of something unexpectedly. So, yeah, so that's some of the background of the trip, and felt it was so exciting and interesting that the story had to be told and shared to more people, and hence writing the book.
Okay. And how is the book organized? Is it just you had yourself and your teammates on this journey, and but how's the book organized, and what are you hoping for folks to take away from it?
So it's 2 primary parts. The first and main part of the book is, of course, the adventure. I hope to give the reader a front row seat to what we went through, our trials, our tribulations, our wins, our low moments, in which there were plenty. It was a very trying event. We were all tired. We were all hungry, oftentimes wet and cold. or wet and hot. You name
Yeah.
it. It's amazing how diverse this country is, especially when you get out and away
Yeah.
from the cities. And the second part of the book, I couldn't help myself being a physician. I wanted to educate the reader about the transplant community.
Mhm.
And so everything from, what causes kidney failure, what's it like to be on dialysis, what's involved with becoming a living kidney donor, all the way to most people have probably heard about technological solutions to the shortage of kidneys in this country. And most commonly, people have heard about pig transplants.
Right.
So taking kidneys from pigs, kind of washing them of what are called antigens to make them more acceptable to the human body, and transplanting those into humans. So it's relatively in its infancy. It's making great progress. I'm personally very hopeful that that works out to be
Mhm.
commonplace someday. But in the interim, that's probably still years away, and we still have about 13 to 14 people dying every day from kidney disease.
Okay. Interesting. I want to, there's a question that I'm going to ask, but I don't want you to answer it yet. But one of those is your aha moment. And I usually ask this at the end of the podcast. And when you kind of look back at your career, your passion, and from where you started to where you are today, is to give some perspective on the journey you have been on and what you have been doing, both in your interests, your career, because of the circumstances with your father and what you've accomplished now. And uh, I wanted to tee that up so it wasn't a surprise for you, but also first
Sure.
want to go back to your website, if you would, just kind of navigate what can our listeners or viewers, if they're going to see this on our YouTube channel, what can they expect when they go to your website? And are there perhaps some action items you'd like to share with them? So I'm going to share your screen or of your website, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Excellent. All right. Hopefully, technology will take care of itself. And all right. So now I have the website up. Let me just move it down just a hair. Got this little bar on my computer. It just gets really annoying. All right. So
No.
this is the Ascending America, Dr. Matthew Harmody, MD.com. So take us on a little tour.
Yes. So the banner at the top is a great place to start for folks that don't know much about um, kidney disease and living kidney donation. You can sign up for that. And I would say there's probably four kind of calls to action. And
Mhm.
again, the expectation, Howard, is not everyone should or wants to be a living kidney donor. And
Right.
that's not what the book's about. It's not what the
Right.
website's about. But one, having awareness,
Hmm.
seeing a primary care doctor, knowing what's necessary to make sure that you're not developing kidney disease. Number two, knowing where resources are available. If you meet someone or know someone that has kidney disease, the sooner you consider living kidney donation, the better off that person can be.
Hmm.
And that's primarily because living kidney donation, in those situations, kidneys last about 15 to 20 years, as opposed to deceased donor kidneys, which last about half that time.
Okay.
And then finally, of course, I'd be lying if I didn't say that I hope that some reasonable percentage of people would consider living kidney donation, and there's information about that as well.
Okay.
Yeah, you see some great pictures of the team. As I said earlier, it's unbelievable how vast and beautiful this country is. And when you get off the beaten path and hiking some of these trails to summits, it's just a wonderful experience. And yeah, and so I continue to have speaking engagements, to have conversations like we're having today, Howard, And
Okay.
it's all to raise awareness. And I think that's a general summary of the website.
Okay. And we have the book page here.
Yeah, the book's available at all your online retailers that
Okay.
people generally use. And it's also available in a lot of brick and mortar stores if that's your preference for purchasing
Excellent.
books.
I think if one person eh, has a light bulb go off and an insight in the moment, that's to me that's success. And at least it helps inform individuals, our listeners, that this is an option that's available. And I love that.
Yes. And
I love
my
that.
goal is to normalize it and someday make it very commonplace. I like to, well, I realize blood donation and donating an organ are quite different. But there was a day not too long ago, Howard, that there weren't blood drives and there weren't the ability to just walk in, even without an appointment, donate a unit of blood and have that unit go to someone in need. Back in the day, you could only donate to a loved one, maybe in advance of them going into major surgery. So we've normalized blood donation, and it's critical to saving lives in this country. And my goal is to someday that living kidney donation becomes that commonplace.
Fantastic. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen. And all right, there we are back. To me, this is about education and informing. And what is very evident is after the donation, you can lead a very normal life. I mean, obviously, you have to watch what you're a doctor, so you know this all too well, and you're an experienced athlete. Is we have to take care of ourselves, not eat things that are bad for us, and get out there and exercise. I mean, I know I sit way too much between podcasting and my coaching work. I am getting into outdoor coaching, which is kind of nice, and
Oh,
but
that's great.
yeah, and but I love the fact that it's letting people, even if they were on the fence about donating, even if they had a loved one who needed say the kidney, and they were on the fence about getting back to a kind of a normal life. It's there. It may take a little bit. The path might be a little different than say yourself or somebody else who's an experienced athlete, but it's possible. And so I think this not only gives hope to the person who needs the kidney, that there are going to be others out there who are going to take this information and run with it, to use an endurance term. I don't run because I've never seen runners smile. Uh, but and then also for the individual who perhaps would like to make a difference and be a donor, now this is available to them. So I love that for to be able to provide that to our listeners. As you, what I'm going to do now is go back and ask the question I teed up earlier is, as you look back in your journey and now having been on this endurance activity with your peers and now written the book, what are how are you feeling in terms of what you have been able to accomplish here and what difference you and your peers are being able to make right now?
I'm going to cheat a bit, Howard, and give you two
Okay.
um,
Two's good.
aha moments. The first is I was originally out of school, an engineer, and I worked in the oil industry. But that coincided with my father's dealing with chronic kidney disease and living that through him and him eventually passing. That I chose to leave, a pretty comfortable career as an engineer and go down the street to Case Western Reserve, which was a short train ride from where I worked in downtown Cleveland at the time. And I gave notice that I was going to leave my engineering job, and that was in the spring. And when, on my last day, I still had not had an acceptance to medical school. So I was taking a fairly big flyer on being accepted. And as it turned out, after going out after work and hanging out with colleagues and having the usual celebratory parting of ways party, I came home and had my first medical school letter of acceptance in the mailbox.
Oh, wow.
So it wasn't where I happened to go, but now I knew I was going somewhere. So
Yes.
that I would just encourage people to consider taking calculated risks on yourself and believing in your ability. It's often easier to stay in a comfortable situation than to stretch yourself or maybe do what you really want to do. The second moment, Howard, is in 2022. I got an email through an organization called Kidney Donor Athletes. They're taking a trip to Kilimanjaro, and it ended up being 22 living kidney donors that summited Kilimanjaro together. That was the first mountain that I've been part of climbing, and it's more of a hike than a climb. If you want to do a high peak, and it's of course the highest peak in Africa, you don't need any technical experience. You need to be, in moderate shape. But I can remember my wife dropping me off at the airport. It's dark 30, and it was for the first time being a weekend warrior, felt relatively competitive athlete. I told myself, I told my wife that I'm going for the journey. Whether I'm successful in summiting, somewhat out of your hands, but it's not about finishing at the top. It's about enjoying the journey, enjoy meeting uh, fellow kidney donors. That really changed my perspective on doing endurance events. There's just a lot to be seen, and people may say, well, you raced around the country in 41 days to go to all these beautiful places. You missed everything. Yeah, you could argue half the time we were doing it in the dark, but 41 days, you see plenty of country, driving 17,000-ish miles, mostly in an RV. You saw a lot and appreciated a lot. And while we were still being competitive and we were on the clock, I just enjoyed the journey and so much enjoyed writing about it as well.
That is excellent. And I don't have the full quote in front of me. Though I think about it, reference it many times, is Teddy Roosevelt in the arena. The idea is, unless you're in the arena getting dirty and scratched up, you can't really speak to what the experience is and how people feel, and is it the right thing to do or wrong thing to do? Because if you're outside the arena, it's just an opinion. And
Yes. Yeah, that's a
s-
great
so
quote.
so the fact that you've done it, and it's hopefully going to make a difference. And I love the fact that you're on the Outdoor Adventure Series, sharing your story. Is there anywhere else besides the website? And we're going to provide a backlink to it, Matthew, harmonymd.com. Are there any other sites that you'd like us to link up to so our listeners can learn more about you and this mission that you're on about being a living donor?
Yeah, I think the website will tell people more than enough about me. I would like them to know more about living kidney donations. So I would offer you two websites, Howard. One would be the National Kidney Registry, which I mentioned earlier,
Hmm.
and that's simply kidneyregistry.org. And at their homepage, there will be a button, in need of a kidney or I want to donate a kidney. And you can go through some screening questions and really get an extensive amount of information about living kidney donation. There's no uh, commitment. I always tell people that wonder about that You're asked right up until you're in the pre-op holding area with anesthesia before your surgery, if
Hmm.
you're certain that you want to donate, because you can withdraw at any time from the process. But the
Sure.
second website that I'm a little bit partial to, but it's the single largest living kidney donor advocacy group in the country. Our nonprofit is called the National Kidney Donation Organization. Unfortunately, the website is a little bit simpler, and it's simply nkdo.org.
Okay.
There
Excellent.
you'll find resources for everything kidney donation, whether you're a dialysis patient on the wait list, a family member, interested in living kidney donation. We have a lot of information on the website. We have webinars. We have a very active membership of over 5,000 members that all have some part of the game, just like your quote earlier. They're in it one way or another,
Right.
and they're trying to solve a very difficult problem, and that is a tremendous supply demand imbalance in this country for people with kidney disease.
Sure. Well, we will definitely, in addition to the website, provide links to the National Kidney Registry and also the National Kidney Donor or Organization, nkdo.org. So we'll give our listeners as much opportunity as possible to learn more and to act on it or just to get further educated. Matt, it's been a pleasure to have you on the podcast. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I certainly enjoyed meeting you and hearing about your journey and the great work that you're doing.
Yes, Howard, it's been a pleasure and a great opportunity to talk with you about something near and dear to both of our hearts, being
Most
outside
definitely.
and being active. And if there's one small message to end this, is get out in nature, do a little, do a lot. But yeah, get outside.
I love it. I love it. Hey, I do have one little surprise question. Where is your next adventure going to take you?
You're talking about outdoors and maybe climbing or hiking. This is nursing a knee injury, so it's a bit tentative,
Okay.
but I have I've met some good friends that had heard I'd climbed Kilimanjaro. They wanted to do that. I kind of helped coach them a little bit. And then they had a successful trip to Kilimanjaro. So now they're talking about going to Everest Base Camp. And to be clear, this is not to the summit of Everest. It's a decent climb/hike, but again, no technical climbing required. They're talking about the fall. My goal is to get rehabbed by then. So that's one opportunity. I think that'll probably be the end of my mountain climbing days. It's fun, but it's quite a commitment.
Yeah.
You meet some beautiful people. Of course, you see some beautiful scenery. So I'll keep my fingers crossed on that one.
All right. Well, our fingers will be crossed as well. And love if you make that journey, do send us a picture. We'll add it to our show notes. Again, Matt, it's
Oh,
been a
excellent.
pleasure. Yeah, it's been a pleasure to have you on the podcast, and look forward to again hearing more about your continuing journey. So take care now.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Howard.
All right. Listen, stay in the line. We're going to do a real quick close, and you and I can have a final chat. Okay. All right, folks, we've just been chatting with Dr. Matthew Harmody. He is a retired emergency room physician, a outdoors enthusiast in his own right, mountaineer, endurance athlete. But today's episode was really about talking about being a donor, specifically a kidney donor, and the book that he wrote, the Ascending America, talks about the journey he and his peers were on to hike up the tallest peaks here in the U.S. and to bring light to the idea that even altruistic donators of their kidney can also continue to live very vibrant and exciting lives. And while they are also making difference for others. And in the book, you'll learn about their journey as well as the journey of what it means to be a kidney donor. Now, we're going to provide backlinks to Matt's website as well as to the other sites that he had just mentioned, the National Kidney Registry and the National Kidney Donor Organization, so you can learn more about what it means to be a kidney donor and is this the right decision for you. As for us in this episode, you can find us on our website, outdooradventureseries.com. We're also on LinkedIn and Facebook on our Outdoor Adventure Series pages. We're also going to be on YouTube, and you'll be able to see the episode, part of the episode or all the episode of this interview, including the touring of Matt's website. And of course, you can listen to this episode wherever you get your podcast from. Okay, folks, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, go out there, have a fantastic day. And as Matt had just shared, get out there, be active, do something, get out in nature, go for a walk, get out. For me, my opinion, get out from behind the desk and just get out there and enjoy nature wherever you are, even if it is 20 below, even for a minute, go enjoy it. Okay, folks, until next time, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, go have a fantastic day, and we look forward to having you join us on a future episode of the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast. Take care now.